Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So, for today, what I wanted to do was actually go over an article about supporting your fat friends as a straight sized person. This is something that I have been really thinking about a lot when I think about like when I was younger and being fat and all this stuff. I think about what younger people probably deal with and the sort of ideas that are being put out there. When I think about friendships, I always think friendships are nice because they're kind of the easiest relationships we have. There's a lot less at stake. It's not similar to family or a significant other where there's a lot more going on and you usually have to deal with a lot more stuff from them, and things, especially within family, can be less optional. And within the dating world, you're much more intimate with that person, so there's just a lot more to it. But what I wanted to do was explore fat friendship, as they would call it, and what they're saying, because it's in my opinion that a lot of fat acceptance actually puts up barriers towards fat people having friends. And you may think, why would they do that? I believe they do that as a form of basically isolation. It's in order to keep another fat person locked in the ideology and really unable to get any other points of view so that they don't try to lose weight or they don't try to open their mind to anything else. That's what I think it is, because I do believe that a lot of fat acceptance is rooted in envy and sabotaging other people. So let's see what they come up with here in this article. I'm sure we will not be disappointed with this title. Anybody referring to a thin person as straight size, there's going to be a lot there. So let's go ahead and go through it. Fat people don't need more diet talk and body shame. We need straight size friends who speak out against anti-fat bias. Your fat friend. Oh my gosh. I cannot imagine making that my identity. That is just horrifying. Oh gosh. Okay, let's do this. I will give you guys my advice as well. The first thing I do want to say is don't ever call yourself a fat friend. Do not identify with being fat. It's not healthy. It is strange. Even if you're viewing it very objectively, it'd be like calling yourself your pregnant friend. Fatness is a state of being that can change, and in many cases does change. So don't identify with it that way. It's weird. These people act like you don't have to maintain your weight. You do. You have to eat a lot to maintain, especially somebody being this huge. Okay, let's continue. I was late for staff meeting. Wow, great grammar here. It was one of my colleagues' birthdays, and I'd slipped out to buy his favorite chocolate chip coconut cookies from a neighborhood bakery. I arrived just in time to sing happy birthday with the rest of the staff and send the box of oversized cookies around the table while we worked through our weekly agenda. Most colleagues happily took a cookie or quietly passed. Halfway around the table, though, the cookies stopped with Dave. Previously fat. So that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of this is rooted in jealousy and envy and sabotage. So they are especially trying to stigmatize somebody who has lost weight because they want to provide the least amount of incentives possible for other people to get out of obesity. That's my opinion. Previously fat. Ooh. Dave found the gospel of calorie counting and was hell-bent on conversion and penance. His diet talk had taken over the office. and it became evident that anyone who needed to talk to Dave would have to endure lengthy monologues about the perils of car culture, the dangers of saturated fat, probably carb culture or car. I'm telling you, did somebody must have been in the Hypo Haze when they were editing this. That was a little shady. I've messed up when I have edited too, but geez, okay. The perils of carb culture, the dangers of saturated fats, and an endless stream of reflections on the relative virtues of whatever foods were in the room. So this is a problem for both sides. As you guys know, on this channel, we go about weight loss in a pro-thyroid way. We do not fear carbs or cars. We do not fear saturated fats. We actually fear, well, we shouldn't fear, but we avoid polyunsaturated fats. We don't avoid saturated. These are very good for your metabolism. Polyunsaturated is bad for your metabolism, and it will make you more hypo. And the more hypo you are, the more crazy you are, which is evident by Dave's gospel and being hell-bent on conversion and penance. You can see the sort of hypo haze creeping up on him. It does affect many people. It's not just fat people, although if you are fat, the actual obesity, like the fat cells on your body, are hormonally active and they are anti-thyroid. By the way, when I say hypo on this channel, I'm talking about hypothyroid, which a lot of times people consider things, like they call things mental illness when it's actually rooted in physical illness. And most of the times it's things like anxiety, like this person, he's obviously anxious about his diet, or depression, or other symptoms like feeling cold. I mean, you know, kind of some of the stereotypes. When it's very severe, you can feel very paranoid. You can feel very cut off from other people. You can become solipsistic. That's my opinion anyways. That's what I've observed in myself and others. You can take that for what it is. But when I say hypo, I'm talking about hypothyroidism, which the vast majority of morbidly obese people are hypothyroid. The person writing this article, if they are indeed fat, is likely hypo. So let's continue. So these relative virtues are likely, they're probably judged on traditional dieting, which is things like, apparently vegetable oils are good for you, saturated fat is bad, meat is bad, dairy is bad, carbs are bad. So I guess you're just supposed to subsist off of shakes with seed oils in them, honestly, according to these types of people, or what is the quote-unquote traditional dieting regimen. While I do agree with calorie counting, it's important not to be too much of a deficit. I also think intermittent fasting can help with weight loss, but you have to be careful. It's not ideal for thyroid health, so you have to balance thyroid health with weight loss methods. It's a balancing act. That's why a lot of people don't get out. Okay, let's continue. I knew this would spark conversation, so I'm happy. Okay. Few of us had the fortitude to eat lunch in his presence. Okay, that's really extra. So this person is being kind of cheesy. Like, I honestly wouldn't care that much. But again, I am exiting the Hypo Haze at this time. So it probably wouldn't bother me anymore if he was having his moment. His comments lingered in the no man's land between diet evangelism and diagnosable disordered blank. Like I said, he's definitely getting more hypo-y. I wonder if he was able to sustain that. If he is, it seems like it's uneasily. I would suggest loosening up a bit. Maybe a little bit less of a deficit, or some more saturated fat that he views as so evil, because it calms you down. Regardless of their ideology, Dave's comments regularly involved cruel and vocal judgments of the bodies of those around him. So the interesting thing about this is this person that's writing this article is really sensitive, which is the symptom of hypo. You become very emotionally sensitive. You can't handle things like criticism. When it gets really bad, you lose touch with reality or with how you're appearing to other people, which we see this a lot on Fat Acceptance TikTok. So a lot of those people are severe, and you can actually see people descend into madness over time. A really good example of that is the Fat Doctor UK. A great example of somebody descending into worse and worse levels of crazy hypo as time goes on. But like I said, this dieting can cause the same thing. So this article, I'm guessing it's a she is very upset with Dave because she has these same traits. She doesn't view this article as some kind of evangelism, right? She's trying to provide an argument. She can't view her possible overeating as this. We often judge what's in ourselves and other people really harshly. That's just a human thing, but it can be especially bad when you have these health issues that make you a little nutty. So let's continue. I was the fattest person in the office, which meant I heard the most of Dave's diet laments and food critiques. He lingered in my doorway, warning me about trans fatty acids and the dangers of visceral fat, gesturing toward my stomach. So this isn't necessarily bad. This is just something that's upsetting her. Trans fats being bad for you is it's kind of ubiquitous. It's pretty much something that everybody agrees upon at this point. And visceral fat is also very bad because it is very hormonally active, which we talk about hormones a lot on this channel. So it is definitely worse. Definitely. So this is actually true. That thing's going to be your death sentence, he'd said one day, pointing at my wide, soft belly as I tucked into a stir fry. Since then, I had taken to closing my office door or walking to a nearby park to eat, just to save myself and my meal the unwelcome scrutiny. So, I don't know, like, this is something that people have to decide for themselves, but it's not wrong. It isn't wrong. If you have a lot of fat there, this person may not know how to get rid of it, which is bad. But the fact is, it is deadly. Absolutely. I've experienced these health issues. There's truth to this. This is not something that's just made up. So yeah, she just doesn't want to hear that, I guess. I don't know. Is it nicer to not say anything? Is it not meaner not to say anything? Is it meaner to say nothing about it because to not warn somebody? I don't know. It's a question. That's one of those moral dilemmas and personality differences and stuff like that where people just have different views on it. On the day of our staff meeting, we were celebrating. Our director was sharing updates when Dave interrupted her mid-sentence to weigh his birthday cookie options aloud. Okay, this is extra. So Dave needs to either tell this to a friend or I don't know. This is a bit much. I had my last 150 calories 2 hours ago, and I'm not supposed to have my next 150 for another hour and a half. Okay, that is really extra. So I just think he could just not have it. But whatever. He announced, voice cutting through the director's. 20 pairs of eyes turned to him. I'm guessing this is a little dramatized. He continued, seemingly unaware of our collective gaze. If I have half a cookie, I'll have to spend another hour and a half in the gym tonight. He sighed, overwhelmed. They look so good, but I'd better not. I think to me, the irony of this is this concept of, I know this is going to be scary, okay? But it's that whole thing of do unto others as you would have do unto you. If she doesn't want to be judged for her size and for how she's eating, then she shouldn't be judging him for it. It's just a sort of hypocrisy, I guess, that I don't think is good for you. It's kind of bad for the soul. I guess, because she's really judging him terribly. And that's very obvious through the dramatization. Thinking Dave was finished, the director returned to her announcements before his sharp voice cut through again. I am down 2.5 pounds this week, Dave went on, heaving another belabored sigh. So I could afford a cookie, or at least part of one, but nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. So I feel for this person. I am not in the Hypo Haze, so I'm a lot calmer. And so when I see this, I actually feel bad for Dave. I think Dave needs to chill. Dave is obviously not going about this dieting thing in the right way. If he's this hungry or he's this crazy or, he's having to say these things out loud all the time. As somebody who is super morbidly obese, I'm crazy and have to say things out loud all the time. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. It was especially worse in the years prior. But the part of me that kind of, I don't know if I laugh at it because it's very dark, but when you get big enough, you start to act like Dave even when you're not dieting. Like, you start to act like this all the time. And again, writing this article in this way is a sign to me that this person is basically Dave 24/7. Dave probably at some point quit this unsustainable diet and went back to normal. But when you're super morbidly obese, you never go back to normal. It just steadily gets worse and worse over time. And then you end up like Fat Sophic Bro. And then it doesn't matter. Even if you're not dieting, you're still like that. It's very dark. Like I said, I'm going to tell y'all. I'm going to tell you guys because I want you to be armed with it. This is what you're giving up. Everybody makes it about looks, but it's not just looks that you're giving up to be that big. You give up your sanity. But, she thinks she's so much better than Dave when she's likely the same or worse. Okay. While the rest of the staff was happily enjoying their cookies or contentedly forgoing them, Dave felt compelled to show his work like an elementary school student. Somehow it wasn't enough that he felt so much anguish and ambivalence over a simple chocolate cookie. Dave performed his conflicted despair for all of us. Like me, the rest of the staff looked on quizzically, trying to make sense of what was happening. The director had once again fallen silent. I don't think they didn't know what was happening. I think it's really obvious what was happening. I just think people don't always know what to say. They can see he's struggling, and it's just like a touchy subject, especially in a work environment. It's a personal thing, and you don't really want to comment on that within a work environment. But again, I've noticed a lot of the FA types, they don't recognize the difference between public and private. And this would be a more public situation where you have to be a little edgy about how you talk about things because you're in a work environment. I digress. At long last, Dave decided against a cookie. He heaved one final, noisy sigh and passed the box to the next person, one of my best friends. My friend, straight-sized and muscular, it's weird, watched Dave for another minute, blinking blankly before choosing his words. He turned his attention to the box of cookies now in front of him. I could have a cookie, but they're so good, I can't just have one, he announced. If I have two, I'll be happier because they're so delicious. But I don't know if everyone will get one, but Kathy and Will both skipped theirs, so there might be enough. I just don't know what to do. My friend heaved a belabored sigh before taking two large cookies, smiling at me confidentially and happily tucking in. Dave did not seem to notice his send-up, staying focused on removing the chocolate chip cookie from his mind. So I think she's attracted to this friend, I'm just going to be honest. Because it's a little much. Just saying. She's really... oh my gosh, my friend. Oh. I'm like, girl, I don't know. I don't know if I'm pretty sure this is a girl. Look, I'm going to assume, okay? Sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but, geez. I think it's just like, I don't know. It's whatever. I don't even think I would care. Honestly, either way. This is just kind of stupid. My friend, okay, I already read that. I felt a wave of relief and a sudden defiant freedom. Like, really? Really? No, that's just you being turned on. That's what that is. Someone else had noticed this bizarre display, this strange performance of thin piety and virtue. For once, someone else had found it ridiculous, laughable, strange, and unsettling. So her view of this being a better situation is, I'm not being made fun of, somebody else is being made fun of, so I'm happy because I was able to bring you down. That's just toxicity. I can't tie that to hypo. That's just toxicity. That's envy, that's jealousy, that's hate. As a very fat person, and as the fattest person in most rooms where I live, that means that you're really big. Yeah. Diet talk is a constant. Nearly everywhere I go, people much thinner than me are eager to tell me everything they're doing to avoid looking like me. I love that that's in bold. Oh, you poor baby. So again, who is worse, this person or Dave? At least Dave is trying. What are you doing? This is what I'm saying. You end up being a Dave even when you're not dieting. But it happens slowly over the years and you don't realize it. And then you're writing an article like this. Without knowing what I eat or how I move, they confidently tell me I'm eating myself into an early grave. It is surreal, being followed by a Greek chorus so eager to foretell my untimely death, seemingly relishing the opportunity to make me a martyr to their cause. This happens with me a lot with vegans. Vegans do that to me a lot. But that's because veganism is very ideology driven and hypo-inducing, so people get nuts after a while. No offense, y'all. Just got to keep it 100. Same with keto. Like I said, we talk about everything here, so I'm trying to be fair. I've done keto and it made me so much worse, for the record. Okay, but it doesn't end with diet talk. Strangers remove items from my grocery cart. That is so hard to believe. Like, I am calling BS. I am absolutely calling BS. I do not believe that for a second. I think that is ridiculous. They recommend weight loss surgeons without so much as a hello. I highly doubt that strangers are doing that. That would be incredible. I would definitely need to see some video evidence. Absolutely. I do not trust that for a second. Some shout slurs and insults from passing ears. Even in my otherwise progressive hometown. Look, a lot of progressives are very against fatness, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean anyways. Back in my day, it was mostly conservatives that were fat and that were okay with fatness. It was never the left, so it doesn't shock me if it still isn't. Not only are fat people expected to shoulder the burden of endless social stigma, we're also expected to internalize it, bottle it up, and understand it as the natural consequence of our defiant bodies. For the record, pretty much everybody's against fatness today. Both sides, all sides. Just had to clarify that. Let's reread this moment. This was something she really wanted to emphasize here. Okay. Not only are fat people expected to shoulder the burden of endless social stigma, but we're also expected to internalize it, bottle it up, and understand it as a natural consequence of our defiant bodies. We have entered the Hypo Haze. How does it feel, you guys? Like, I'm serious. I'm serious. I am serious. This is Twilight Zone levels. Okay, that was quite a jump. And it's just let's try to translate this into reality, okay? I need to like really read this because I have to decode. Again, I'm leaving the haze, so let me try to like, I still have one foot in, so let me just get back in and then try to translate it to what it really means or what it really is. Not only are fat people expected to deal with the health issues of being this big, but we're also supposed to take responsibility for it, recognize our patterns, and then change them. Which is difficult. It's very difficult. Very difficult. And I think that's valid. And I think there does need to be some grace from people. But again, that's not what she said, is it? I had to like get rid of the haze so you guys could see. I had to translate fat logic for you. When I tell thin friends about these experiences, they shrug before my sentences are even finished. What did you do to prompt it? They were probably just trying to do you a favor. Maybe you misheard them. I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it. All those things are probably true. Honestly. Time after time, thinner friends have minimized, dismissed, and recasted events they neither witnessed nor experienced, going out of their way to explain away the harms done to me and other fat people in their lives. Look, I'm doing it too, and I'm fat too, so I'm just saying. The vast majority of friends and family who don't wear plus sizes struggle to fathom the ubiquity and pervasiveness of antifatness. Maybe it's the city you live in, honestly. I don't know. I don't know. I used to live in Los Angeles, so like in Southern California. That's where I was born and raised. And honestly, I didn't have like tons of issues every day. Like I do think it's gotten worse since fat acceptance, TikTok especially, took off. But really, it was fine until the whole like Tess Holiday thing. I didn't notice any anti-fatness in real life until after 2015. The first time I had something happen to me was 2016. But even still, like, even with certain things happening, sorry, my leg is like brutally asleep. Even with certain things happening, it was so rare. It's so rare. And I can understand like struggling with dating or something like that, especially within the gay world, because it's very much like looks is very much a part. But also too, like I care about looks too. So I'm not sitting here like lecturing anybody, you know what I mean, about it. Like I think I just understand reality, and that yeah, like if you want a hotter guy, you have to kind of be hotter, you know, you kind of have to rise up to the occasion, so to speak. Or if you, I don't know. I feel like I'm losing touch with this. That's why I try to do these videos now, because I want to make sure that I keep, like I try to get everything down before I start to forget. Because as I get better, I kind of start to forget things. Ooh, I have like a pimple or something. Okay. It follows fat people everywhere, to the gym, the grocery store. Yeah, see, this is paranoia. So I had one person fat shame me in the grocery store one time, but it was not that big of a deal. It was cringe, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And to be fair, I was being a hog at that time. Like I was eating a huge pizza like every single day. So the person who also was fat commented on it, which is kind of funny. My leg is like brutally asleep. I don't know what I was thinking. It's not coming back, y'all. Oh my God. By the way, I think all the weight I've lost, I think, is in my legs. My legs, to me, they're looking like chicken legs now. They're fine, but it's just funny because my belly is not going down at all. But I think it's because this is a side note, sorry. When you lose weight in a prothyroid way, you lose weight in the secondary sources first and then primary. It's like secondary storage places and then primary. So your belly is the last to go. But it's just funny because now my legs are tiny. I'm just kidding, not really. But anyways, I'm sure if a thin person saw my leg, they'd be like, oh my God, it's so fat. I hope my leg doesn't look like that leg. Was that good? Anyways, okay. It bombards us in our careers, families, and relationships. Its long shadow follows us everywhere, blotting out the sum of us with its exaggerated panic and preening abuse. So is it the fat phobia, or is it you? Is it the hypo that you're experiencing? That's the better question. Because you have to realize when you have health problems, it follows you everywhere, hun. It follows you everywhere. Every single thing you do when you're this big, you're trying to sleep, you can't get comfortable, or you have sleep apnea. You're trying to walk up a flight of stairs, you're so out of breath, you can't even hang. You try to go hiking with your friends, and it's a struggle. Like, you have to go a lot slower. You feel put on blast. You try to go out to eat, you can't fit in the booth. You try to work, you're too tired, or you get sick too often. You try to save money, but you're spending so much of it on food that you can't, especially in today's economy. Like, it follows you everywhere. It is like truly, it's the health issues and the problems involved with morbid obesity are demonic. It is like having a demon with you at all times, especially combined with the mental health effects of the hypothyroidism. It is just a nightmare. But again, it's something that nobody else can save you from. And it is self-inflicted. So you're not totally a victim. Like, I got here through BED, but so I was a victim in the sense of I went through trauma to give me that disorder. But it's still it's a hurt your people situation. Like, you're a hurt person hurting yourself. And so it's still self-inflicted. But it can be hard to get out, which is why I try to educate on how to get out of it as I'm experiencing it and showing you guys and trying to plead my case through showing it publicly. But anyways, let's continue. But the thought that fat people walk through such a dramatically different world than thin people is too alarming, too threatening for most of the thin people in my life. It is much easier and much more comforting for them to deny the harm, to minimize or justify it. So most do. I don't know. Like, I don't know if these people, they have like this idealized version of reality in their head, but like, as far as people being mean, nasty, rude, everybody goes through that. I mean, maybe if you're like the best looking, gorgeous, you're like a model and you're famous or something. But even if you're famous, you'd get a lot of hate. But if you're like super gorge, maybe everybody would be nice to you. But has nothing to do with being fat or thin. That's pretty privilege, which is a totally different thing. And that would probably make a much more interesting article, to be honest. Anyways, over time, it becomes part of the punishment of daring to live in a different body. No, it's actually the consequence of overeating for a long, long period of time. It's also, the social things are not even the worst part. It's the health issues. It's the times where you can't be at peace being alone at night because you're so uncomfortable or so anxious or so weird, that's where it can really be a problem. Anyways, but they'd rather blame other people. Like, imagine her sitting in her room at night just thinking about all this fat phobia and social stigma all night, and nobody's talking to her. Maybe one thing happened to her 6 months ago by a total stranger, and she is just thinking about it over and over and over and over and over again. It's not healthy. It's really bad. Anyways, let's continue. I also love how she's like, the vast majority of thin people. Well, sorry, but I'm not thin, so... The vast majority of thin people I know have memorized their lines, which always imply but fall short of directly stating that whatever befalls me as a fat person is somehow my fault. Are you putting the food in your mouth? Do you expect somebody else to lose the weight for you? It's okay to be uncomfortable with your current circumstances, but with something like this, you're the only one that can change it. Nobody else can change it for you. So they are going to see it as your fault because you're the only one who can do something about it. All roads lead back to me. Yes, it's called personal responsibility. That's what it's called. I know it's a shocking concept for you, but that's what it's called. And it's not to say that if somebody is abusive or whatever like this, even in moments of brutal public humiliation, no matter how many thin people surround me, none of them will intervene. People don't really intervene in general. So again, you have to learn how to fight for yourself or defend yourself or just get more of an armor and be a bit less thin-skinned, especially when you're an adult. I can understand somebody wanting this when they're like 15. But if you're in your 30s, you should have a thick enough skin. And if you don't, there's likely something else going on because it's not normal to act like a child when you're in your 30s. I am not worthy of their empathy, their indignation, their support, outrage, or intervention. Mine is not a body worth defending, not a heart worth protecting. Again, it's called being an adult. You're not 6 years old. You're not 16. People view you as an adult, I'm sure. And so you have to kind of face things yourself like everybody does. Would you ever stand up for someone else? I would doubt it, honestly. Most people are kind of gutless anyways. So I don't know. I'm just telling you, I personally would not hold my breath at this point, especially not going into my 30s. I'm certainly not going to sit around and hope for somebody to intervene on my behalf all the time. Like, yeah, right. Let's keep it 100. When I talk to thin people about these moments, they swear up and down that they would, will, and do intervene when fat hatred rears its head in public. Well, they shouldn't do that. You guys should just be honest. Each one swears that they wouldn't stand for that kind of indignity, that they couldn't bear to see another person treated so poorly. I suspect they believe it, too. They see themselves as deeply good people, protectors of the underdog, taking proud stands for dignity and safety. Well, this is probably because of the kind of friends you have. I have mean friends because I'm a mean person. So none of my friends say that. They all say mean things. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. It's just like, it's probably the kind of friend that you're having. Like, I think a lot of fat people, when they're really unhealthy, they tend to attract like Captain Save-A-Hose and helpers and these kind of people. And sometimes the dynamics can be a bit codependent or unhealthy or toxic. So I'm not surprised that she's in this situation. I used to be as well. And again, every relationship, it's 2 parts, right? So it's you, but it's also them, and it's the interaction. So it's both of your fault if you're in a toxic situation like that, where it's kind of codependent. It's you and the other person at the same time. So they're enabling certain things, or they're wanting to be the savior and you're wanting to be the victim, and you're wanting somebody to take care of you, even as an adult. So it's toxic. This is how a lot of very fat people, they get into abusive dynamics, because they're wanting this type of thing. And it's because you're so sick that you kind of are more vulnerable. But anyways, let's continue. It's really sad. This actually makes me really sad to like read, because I know I kind of know what she's feeling like, and it's such a nightmarish, horrible place to be. And the amount of like self-hatred she likely feels is very soul destroying. I feel very sorry, because I know what this is like. I know what that feels like. But their words are belied by inaction. In the dozens of moments of ruthless public humiliation and harassment I faced, which probably, realistically, she's probably way over exaggerating it. It's probably like someone looked at her and she takes a certain way, or maybe she heard somebody laugh and she thinks it's about her, but it's not. It's like something totally irrelevant, like they're not even looking at her. Or maybe she's sitting on a train, or she's on a plane or something, and she sits down next to somebody. They move. They don't like that she's touching them. She'll take that as like public humiliation and harassment and all these things. She's not giving any examples, so I'm trying to translate for you guys. But that's why it doesn't happen. That's why people don't intervene, because it's not like anything's really happening. And a lot of people, like I said, are gutless, so they wouldn't do anything even if something was happening. When passerby relish the street harassment they hurl at me, even on a crowded city street, no one else speaks up. No one tells them to knock it off. No one checks in with me. They are all good people, self-proclaimed egalitarians, and they are all silent. That moment in the office when my friend took 2 cookies was so notable because of how completely rare and unexpected it was. Moments like that, as a rule, simply don't happen. So, according to you, the only way that somebody can be your friend or defend you is by enabling eating highly palatable foods. Like, do you not catch the optic fail of that? So somebody's only defending you if they defend the food you want to eat, or it's like about food. Weird. Oh God, here we go. Here's some more. Let me try to translate this one again, but let's read it first. When a thin person does something, anything, to defend or support a fat person, it's a thunderclap, a cathartic climax in an otherwise desolate movie. Let me translate. When a thin person tells me that it's okay that I'm fat and that it's okay for me to overeat, it really comforts me, and it makes me feel a little bit less of cognitive dissonance. So it shocks me, but in a good way, when most of the time people are encouraging me to lose weight or get healthier. This person doesn't, and it makes me happy. So that's the translation. Over time, the simple truth becomes supremely exhausting and isolating. Yeah, it's not the obesity that's exhausting and isolating. Like, do you see kind of like the Freudian slips here? It's really funny. That part's funny. I mean, much of this is actually really sad, but the Freudian slips are actually funny. I have learned to subsist without much validation because there is so little to be found. Yes, people do not validate overeating when you are huge. They don't, because to do so would actually be cruel, not kind. I do not dare to dream of vocal material support from thinner people. That is a horizon too distant, a future too greedily grand to imagine. Support, validation, and solidarity are too much to ask for when even simple empathy is out of reach. So as a fat person, I have learned to go it alone. Then why are you expecting anything? Look, I have been a lone wolf in my life. You don't see me being like, because I don't expect people to do that. Why? Because I take controversial takes. I have hot takes. I try to fight with the culture. I try to shift the culture. I don't go along with it. And I don't expect people to always be happy with me doing that. People don't like change. And even going after this fat acceptance culture, which is super toxic and deadly, I have taken some hits from it. But I don't expect anybody else to be in the line of fire. I just appreciate support, or just you guys watching me or whatever. Like, I just appreciate that kind of thing. I don't need you to go to bat with me against Fat Sophic Bro, or, you know, I understand. Not everybody is like me. Not everybody can or will do that or wants to do that. But those of us that do, we appreciate you guys that support us in that kind of thing. Even if it's covert, I don't care. I still appreciate it. Anyways. But yeah, like, I go it alone, you know? I'm a little bit of an activist with this stuff. It's just a different kind of activist than people are expecting. Because it's actually different. Anyways, heaven forbid I actually think for myself, right? Okay. Imagining thin allies feels presumptuous until a new possibility presents itself in moments like that staff meeting, until little glimmers of hope show up in the few precious friends willing to listen, willing to say something, willing to do something. When a thin person does something, anything, to defend or support a fat person, it's a thunderclap, a cathartic climax in an otherwise desolate movie. I long for those moments. I imagine a thin friend talking about their fat politics, unprompted, with other thin people. Oh my gosh. I imagine them proactively bringing up fat activism, inviting other thin people into a conversation about solidarity and matching their actions to their values. Still, they come so rarely. I don't even know. I feel like I should say something to that. It's so gross when a thin person feeds into these delusions. When you know damn well that this stuff is wrong and you do it to be nice. That's actually cruel. A thin friend asked me out to happy hour at one of her favorite restaurants. When I arrive, I notice that most of the seating is made up of booths, tables bolted to the floor, hard church pews fixed to the ground. I feel myself deflate as I realize that this whole place was designed for thinner bodies, thoughtlessly exiling bodies like mine. I wonder if I should tell my friend I'm not feeling well, if I should suggest another place, or if I confess that I will not, if I should confess that I will not fit. I'd suggest the last one. Just be clear. People just need clarity. I don't think there's anything wrong with going out with your friends or trying to have some kind of accommodation or whatever, but you need to advocate for yourself and you need to just be honest. I know that it's hard to be honest because it can be embarrassing, but being hugely fat is embarrassing in and of itself. So you should get used to it, basically. I know that that's harsh, but I'm just keeping it 100. When the server arrives to see us, he confidently leads us to a booth before my friend pipes up. I notice a table over there, she says brightly, pointing to a freestanding table and movable chairs in the corner, still piled with the last party's plates. Can we take that instead? The server nods and crisply pivots, seating us at our new table. When we take our seats, my friend shakes her head. I don't know who these booths are made for, she says, rolling her eyes, but it's not anybody I know. So I really do like what the friend did. That's actually very nice. But this is delusional. So we don't need to lie to our friends. We don't need to be ridiculous about stuff with our friends. But doing this is actually a good thing, and it would help somebody who's especially hypo, especially sensitive, having problems, feeling shy, whatever. I would have loved this if my friends did this. I would have loved that, because that's just actually helping. Again, you want fat people to live their lives, and this is a way that where if you can see this, you can be a really good friend to make it more pleasant to like hang out with friends and that kind of stuff. And just be out living your life. Like if a fat person lives their life, they're going to be more likely to want to lose weight. Precisely because moments like these, like seeing the booths and everything, it shows a fat person that they are not okay, right? The reality is it kind of slaps you in the face, and you think, unless if you're super toxic like this writer, but typically you'd think, gosh, like it would be so nice to go to a restaurant and just be able to sit anywhere. Like I want that freedom to do that. That would be amazing. And it gives you more motivation. So that first part is good. This part is delusional and awful. So don't do this at all. Do not do that. Do not lie to your friend. You just didn't even need to comment on that. I feel my breath deepen and my shoulders loosen. We drink and talk for hours. Laughter and conversation both come more easily, and unexpectedly, I find myself able to relax, relate, and just be. This simple act of friendship, making sure that where we sit can accommodate both of us, is a rare relief, and its value is not lost on me. Yes, I agree with her here. My friend does not call attention to my body, does not explain her actions, and does not expect accolades for her understanding. She simply noticed, took action, and saved me the hot and blinding spotlight of advocating for my aberrant body, if only for one evening. So I think that it would be fine to advocate for yourself. That's totally fine. Everybody has to advocate for themselves every day. I know that that's a shock, but I don't know what this person is thinking. This part here, she may not expect it, but I do think you should thank her, because it can come across as very selfish on your end if people try to do things for you and you don't show any gratitude for it. I would just say that as a suggestion on your end, because again, the Hypo Haze, it can make you solipsistic, in my opinion, and you don't want to be that way, because you can damage relationships if you're like that too much. But you might not be able to help it. But I would suggest thanking your friend. She did not have to do that. For her, this moment is a fleeting one. For me, it's monumental. A thin friend calls. She tells me a mutual friend had come to visit, gone off her flight, and immediately complained about the fat person in her row. He needed a seatbelt extender. How do you let yourself get that fat? My thin friend seized the opportunity. Oh my God. Her voice was bright with adrenaline, the rush of a risk that paid off. Like a child on Christmas morning, her words tumbled out on top of one another when she reported back to me. I told her airline seats have been shrinking steadily for the last 30 years, and that some airlines kick people off the flight for being too fat. She said, okay, but they get a refund. And I said, that's the thing, they don't. It's totally effed. She was like, he didn't even consider how miserable that made me. And I was like, right, but if you're uncomfortable, imagine how he feels. Again, this is the thing that I don't like about fat logic and fat acceptance logic. They don't have a concept of do unto others as you would do unto them. Or as you would have them do unto you, I mean. It's okay for, if somebody's thin, you can tell them to shut up about their feelings. But if somebody tells you as a fat person to shut up about your feelings, then it's a huge problem. It's super toxic, really bad. And again, friends that enable this toxicity, super toxic friends, codependent, not healthy, no. You don't want friends like that. Don't you think it'd be worse to be the fat person, knowing how much everyone doesn't want to sit next to you, knowing you might get kicked off the plane even though you paid for one ticket or even two? And something clicked. She stopped fighting and she just heard it. My friend is eager for my feedback. She wants to know where she messed up, where she missed opportunities. See, this is codependent too. So it goes both ways. This friend has some issues because that's a bit much. I'm sorry. She wants to know that she's done a good job, and she has. She worries about imperfection. I tell her not to worry. Most people wouldn't say anything at all. Her adrenaline has run its course, and her voice is quiet when she responds. It feels like I don't know how to pronounce the word. I'm sorry. I'm done. A something victory. It's not, I say. Not for me. When we hang up the phone, I find myself crying for the first time in months, overwhelmed in gratitude. That is so extra. Like, are you serious? Like, y'all, you have to admit that I have a point with the Hypo Haze, with Hypo. The fact that that would make you cry, I rest my case. That's insane. Now in my mid-30s, even though I act like I'm 10 years old, I have amassed a group of thin friends, oh gosh, who consistently take action in my defense. So I have amassed a group of codependent people that cater to my every want and enable me in every way possible. That's how I will interpret that. They find opportunities to confront antifatness when I'm there and when I'm not. They take it on directly, name it, and do the work to bring other thin people along. They have seen the vicious burden of anti-fat sentiment, the gremlin that clings to fat people, that drains us of our humanity. Yes, but never the actual fat. Never the hypo, never any of that. That doesn't drain you of your humanity. It's the anti-fat sentiment. Okay, sure. They have seen the pervasiveness of anti-fatness in every aspect of our culture, and over time have learned to find it wherever it finds me. Oh my gosh, this is so extra. These friends are thoughtful and attentive. They listen to fatter people and believe our experiences of fat hate and anti-fat bias. Oh my God. If I were to talk to anybody sane like this, they would be so grossed out. Like, your friends are going to be so weird if they actually allow you to talk to them like this. Like I said, this is ridiculous. Anyways, I would never put up with this, and I am fat. If somebody was telling me all this stuff, I'd be like, goodbye. Goodbye. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing about your freaking fatness and all this crap, and oh gosh, you don't want to do anything about it. You don't want to hear anything about it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, bye. Not a vibe. I have fat friends, and guess what? We don't talk about being fat all the time. Oh, I know that just like broke the entire internet, but we don't. We just talk about things. Jeez. Like, sometimes we do talk about weight loss and stuff, or like that kind of thing, but it's not all the time. Anyways, for the record, I am friends with Lisa, and I talk to Lisa more about Taylor Swift than I talk to her about being fat. So let's just keep it 100, okay? It's not normal. Okay. These friends, I already read this. They know that listening and learning is no substitute for action. Their allyship isn't rooted in good intentions, but in consistent action to ensure that fat people are seen, believed, defended, and cared for. Gosh, like, could you imagine? Like, this is what I mean about the barriers to being friends with a fat person. Like, this rhetoric makes people not want to be friends with fat people. Like, there's already sometimes a bias against it, but you are just inflaming that bias. You're making it so much worse. If somebody, even me, it's like if I didn't have any fat friends and I read this article, I'd be like, oh my God, is that what it's like? I'm telling you guys, no, it shouldn't be. Unless if somebody is really bad, then it's not going to be like that. And you want to catch people before they get this bad, because this person is super locked in to the obesity. And again, we always want to prevent it from getting that far. So again, if you're young and you have friends that are fat and you guys are young, they're probably not like this at this point. So try to get them out, try to have them live their life, and hopefully avoid getting super morbidly obese and having these mental issues. Okay. I've come to treasure thinner friends' small, powerful actions to swim against the current of fat hate. Alejandro stands with me, shoulder to shoulder, in the face of anti-fatness. Once the tensest moments have passed, he works to lighten the mood. Kim talks about anti-fatness whenever the opportunity presents itself, even and especially when I'm not there. That doesn't make any sense. Why would it be... oh gosh, I'm just... so weird. Angus takes my lead, but never takes the back seat, boldly naming anti-fatness as one of his anti-oppression values. Oh my gosh. Tara's responses are direct and immediate. She does not let anti-fatness go unnoticed or uninterrupted. Oh gosh. How many of these people do you think are lying? Rossi, like my late grandfather, gets angry, astonished by the cruelty of anti-fatness, and regularly offers to beat up my aggressors. I suspect that, if left to their own devices, they might. These friends are the bright and beautiful exceptions to the world around me. Yeah, so there's so much anti-fatness and hatred that you can find all these people that are willing to do all this. Okay. All right. They know that they have internalized anti-fatness. Ew. And know that their hearts and best intentions aren't enough on their own to end anti-fat bias. They recognize that compassion and commiseration are meaningless without sustained action. Like, this is so weird. And again, she literally made fun of somebody for talking about their diet. Look at the extent. Look at how much worse she is than Dave, I think was his name. Look at this. Look at what she expects of people. At least Dave, it was his own journey. It was his own diet. She expects these people to go to bat for her and do all this, and it has nothing to do with them even. Look at the level. Look at that. She wants them to self-flagellate and know that it'll never be enough. It's never enough. Aren't enough. It's not enough. I mean, this is where I start to feel like there's a level of, I don't know if I want to say it because of YouTube, but abuse. Like, I would never be friends with this person, ever. I would run for the hills. I have come to treasure thinner friends' small, powerful actions to swim against the current of fat hate. Over time, I have drifted apart from friends. I have gone deeper and deeper into an echo chamber who justified such pervasive harms. Instead, I carry these wonderful moments with me like hazy photographs in a locket, a reminder of what's possible. The friends I have kept understand that their support doesn't hinge on how they feel, but on how they show up and what actions they take. Gosh. Like, I literally started this video talking about how great friendships are because they're low effort. And you're taking that away from a friendship. Like, I would see no value in being your friend. I will say that plainly, calmly. Each time they speak up against anti-fatness, I catch a glimpse of some glimmering possibility of a kinder, freer future. Each time they take action, just for a moment, I can see the birth of a new world. So for her, apparently, it's easier to change the whole world than to change herself. That says a lot. And that is where the toxicity, I believe it maybe goes further than just the Hypo Haze. Like, this is something else for sure. Because it's just so much. And again, you can absolutely have toxic mindsets aside from mental illnesses and be a toxic person aside from physical illnesses. So that was wild. That was horrible. I may have to look into this person a bit more. But wow. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I love your comments. I'm getting better about responding because I'm feeling better. And I do want to hear your guys' take on this stuff. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please do like the video. Please do subscribe. And we will be back soon. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your day, night, whatever. And I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.